Hello everyone and welcome to our Game Week 27 Preview show. I'm Chris and Kieran's here too. Hello Kieran, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Good, yeah, buzzing after a good Game Week 26 and I'm
Yes, I'm sure.
looking forward to the next few game weeks. Right, let's do a quick recap and then we'll jump into our thoughts for Game Week 27. So, yeah, here we go. Right, Kieran, do you want to lead in and talk about Game Week 26? What you did, what happened? There's a few people that let you down.
Yeah, what did I do? I bought in Huang, and then I think that no, I bought in Solanke as well. That was it. I bought in Solanke early for his obviously run, and now he's obviously injured. And then I bought in a Huang who obviously blanked for his run, who's obviously now injured. So I got rid of Jota and Darwin, who were both injured, for two freshly injured people. So that's lovely. And obviously, yeah, not much else to talk about. So I didn't have what you got with your moves. So yeah, Watkins, Haaland did okay. Foden got some points. De Bruyne didn't do. Naffle again didn't do anything at all, did he? So
he came on and got a yellow card, which is even more annoying.
Of course, yes, that. And then Maguire kind of salvaged me a little bit by getting a goal.
Yeah,
thank God.
True.
But yeah, the team's not looking great. So I think it was a red arrow again. And I was just last week I was just like, oh yeah, I think I'm due a good week. I'm just it's never a good week right now.
Oh,
not like you.
You've got the free hit and planning coming up, but yeah, it was a tough week. I mean, I think I can't remember like two transfers coming in and doing like better off like 1 week. It was unbelievable. Like 5 goals between 2 midfield transfers, both quite differential as well. It was a good week. So you knew from last week I was already pretty set on doing Jota to Douglas Luiz. Obviously that, and then it was Bowen. Like you know, I wasn't really interested in from last week's show, but I knew he was like my option if KDB was on the bench again, and because he plays in 29, I'm not going to free hit, and I just thought, you know, he's got an extra fixture. Maybe that's good. Maybe De Bruyne's injury is bad, so. Yeah, I just took the risk, which is quite rare for me. But in a blank game week where no one else is playing, I thought even if De Bruyne doesn't, Bowen's only going to be a -2. So the fact that he got a hat-trick, I couldn't believe it. Like, he had no form. West Ham had no form. Yeah, it was just a freak FPL. So yeah, no, I liked it. It was a big green arrow. So
what are you up to now?
Pleased about that. 111k. So I think I'm like 60 points off 10k. That's what I'm thinking now, and with enough chips and doubles and whatnot to go, that you never know.
Yeah, it might be doable.
Well, anyway, let's see about 100k first. It's nice to have these goals because usually I'm just this stage of the season. Recently, I've been slumming, so and I even shouted out.
It's just me there.
Yeah, I know you're usually the one flying, so I'm sure you'll be all right again in a few weeks. I even shouted out the Saka captaincy, and anyway.
You did, yes, yeah, anyway. Correct.
Right, let's jump on and talk about tonight's show because a lot's happening. We've got blank game week 29 has been confirmed. So to recap, there we've got Burnley, Brentford is happening, Fulham, Spurs, Luton, Forest, West Ham, Villa. So only 4 fixtures, and I suppose a lot of the crux at the moment is going to be people who are free hitting are obviously going to be wanting to optimise their team for the next 6 game weeks or so, and then. You know, that free hit, just you bring in all these players and get rid of them again. But then there's other people who are going to be trying to get by in game week 29 and then saving their free hit for another time. So, yeah, I think you and I are probably going to have different routes, so different things to talk about. And we thought tonight we'd just talk about some of the matches this weekend and then talk about players that will make a difference to our teams in the blank. So we're going to start up by talking about Brentford and Chelsea because that's one of the first game weeks of the season, and Brentford probably look like a really interesting team in this blank because they've probably on paper got the easiest fixture away against Burnley, who are like probably the worst team, bar Sheffield United in the league at the moment. But yeah, Brentford haven't been too exciting recently. Their expected goals conceded is 10.1 over the last 4 games. That's the second worst. Perhaps that's understandable given the fixtures against Liverpool and City, but it was West Ham really who scored 4 goals against them. They were in awful form. The fact that they battered them does make you think that perhaps Brentford's issues run a bit deeper. So yeah, I've seen no people have got like Regulon, but or Regulon. don't really fancy in their defensive picks. But, attacking-wise, Brentford are doing all right, and they've definitely got better since Maupai's back. 6.3 expected goals over the last 4 games is pretty mid-table, which, like I say, because they played Liverpool and City, that's fairly understandable. So you'd expect them to be better, and they've got, mixed fixtures, I'd say, around the blank. So it's not like a team you'd want to invest in now. Like Chelsea at home this weekend, okay, maybe that'll be all right. Then they've got Arsenal away, then 29, and then it's Man United and then Brighton. So 3 home games, tough. I suppose. Yeah, they're tough. Yeah. Attacking wise, it's probably only Tony or Maupai if you're feeling juicy. So last 6 game weeks, they're fairly similar. Tony's in terms of points, I should say, but they've got a caveat at the end. So Tony's got double the amount of chances of big chances as Maupai, but they've both got 1 big chance created. The expected points, Tony actually has 29.5. Maupai with 20.8, but interestingly, Tony's only got 1 more return, and he's played basically double the amount of minutes. So Maupai has actually been doing pretty well from a returns point of view when he's playing. So yeah, I think that when you look at the fixtures, not many of these teams in the list have got great strikers. So if you're playing 3-4-3 and you're thinking about free hit, I think Maupai is probably like the 3rd best striker option of that pool of players. So yeah, I think he could be quite a nice differential, especially if at 1.6%. So yeah, I
mean, I think if you're probably going to have Watkins and then probably Tony, and then the third, would you want double Brentford? I don't know. I was thinking someone like a Wanyi if you're going to look at someone like that. And then is there any West Ham strikers?
Really,
no, there isn't.
Tony?
So no. So I think it's a Wanyi or Maupai, I guess. But maybe just go 3-5-2 on a free hit or something, or try to go something like that. I think Brentford have, I think this week, like I'm looking at sort of possibly bringing in Palmer back, because I like Chelsea's next few fixtures, and then I like this fixture for them this week. Obviously Palmer got rested in the FA Cup, but then they lost the EFL Cup. Obviously he played like most of the minutes there. I think he did play pretty much the whole game, including extra time. So I don't know if there's going to be much of a hangover from that. Obviously they did win against Leeds in the FA Cup, so that was like a hard fixture on paper. But they did rest a few of their main players, and I think Leeds did as well. So I like the chances of Palmer doing something this week and over the next few. I think most people are not going to be going back onto them like that quickly. So and I think their fixtures are okay attacking wise anyway. So I think obviously Newcastle at home after Brentford is a good fixture because Newcastle's defense has been literally like second to last, if not last lately. So I like Palmer as an option, and Brentford, Tony is pretty much it, I think, for me. But
and you're right about Chelsea. Like after that Newcastle game, and then obviously the blank, they return and they've got Burnley at home. So like either side of Arsenal, they've got great home fixtures. And I do think Palmer's definitely a player people who won't be free hitting like me are going to sleep on, because there's no point to get him back. I also think just looking at their fixtures long term, like you and I have both still got Gusto. I think he's still like a cracking option. Like he's got 5 big chances created, 9 key passes in the last 5 games. He's absolutely smashing Chilwell in that regard. He's got 1 big chance and 4 key passes, and those 2 metrics are most of all defenders in the last 5 games. From an attacking point of view, he's been great as well at such a low price. So I think Chelsea are worth getting back on now if you're free hitting for sure.
So I'm like talking about Palmer because like in my team at the moment I have 2, maybe 3 players that are going to play in 29. So I think with free transfers I could get to like 5 maybe, and that's one of them is including Taylor. So I'm just at this point I'm just like, I'm going to play the free hit. There is just no point like me bothering to try and get a full team. So I'm looking at players like Palmer because I can just bring them in and not have to worry about I've got the players for 29 or whatever, because I can bring in Palmer, because I can just free hit that team and then just have the good players in between that. So Palmer I think will be a good option for the next few. I can see him returning for sure. He's possibly a captain option. Like his stats sort of have been like 1.46 xG recently, and then a 2.9 xGI over the last like 5 weeks. So it's not been too bad. Like he's with Brentford's sort of XGC of just being like pretty much the last in the league. You said over the last 4 it's been like 10, but over the last 6 they've gone up to I think it's 14, and that's actually worse than Newcastle, so dead last in the league. So
wow, okay.
Yeah, 17 goals conceded in that time, which is also the worst of all the teams in the league. So yeah, Palmer's looking like a solid option.
Yeah, I think it makes the FPL so interesting, this big split, because everyone's going to be doing something different. Like, there's players that people won't consider. Yeah, I think it's going to make it exciting. So no, I do. Yep. I'm jealous not to have Palmer, but he's just not going to fit into my play at the minute. All right, should we move on and talk about Tottenham and Crystal Palace? Because
sure,
Tottenham play in the blank, and they're attracting a lot of attention. So I think
so the fixtures are pretty good at the moment, honestly. So yeah, Crystal Palace, Aston Villa away. Crystal Palace are home this weekend. Aston Villa away after that, which is obviously not a great fixture, but I think there should be goals in that game anyway. Villa's defense has not been amazing. So Fulham away after that, Luton at home, West Ham away, and Nottingham Forest at home after that. So the fixtures for the seeable are pretty good, to be honest. So this is looking like a team that people should sort of target for non-free hitters and free hitters in 29. So yeah, I've got enough money in the bank to do like Nakamba, my like 5th fodder up to Son if I wanted to.
Nice.
So I'm certainly considering something like that. But then I would have a bit more of a bench issue. But then also I have Hwang, who's obviously got this hamstring injury. I think I saw her today. It's not like massive, and it's not going to be a huge issue. But I think I'm just going to like cut my losses there, I think, and just probably just go straight to Son from him because I bought him in as like a sort of way to possibly have someone that like force my hand to not free hit if I bought him in. And if they got their fixture, if they lost to Brighton in the FA Cup, and Wolves got their fixture in 29, I kind of bought him as like someone who would just like be like an extra player if that went away. And so that's not happened. So now I'm just gonna be like, okay, Son looks good. Let's why not just go there when he's injured, and it's just gonna be so Son. So there's rumours of no Richarlison in outside pitch training today, and he's not been doing gym work either, apparently. So, but then there has been pictures of Son shooting centrally in training with Kulusevski and Johnson and Werner sort of crossing towards him in the middle. So, yeah, that's obviously a good sign. I think he was pretty good when he was through the middle, was returning regularly. So, yeah, he's only 16% owned now, which is I imagine quite a lot of those dead teams. I can't imagine basically anyone owning him at the moment from active teams. So, yeah, a good differential again. And before he went to Asia Cup, he was in basically every team, wasn't he? So, yeah, very little form lately. Obviously, since he's come back, he's really not done much. So he had 2 and 4 points since his return in 130 minutes. So in 2 games. 0.0 XG versus Wolves, which was 90 minutes played. So he played on the flank there, but 0 XG was obviously not great. And then 0.0 XG versus Brighton, where he played 28 minutes, but he did get an assist in that game. So, yeah, obviously we'll hope the XG goes upwards. But kind of like with Bowen, his form was terrible. Son's has not been good. Maybe this is the chance.
So he could explode.
He could do. So obviously before the Asia Cup, like he was heavily owned, as I said, and he got 9, 5, 7, 2, and 17, and like the 5 weeks previously. So he was doing great. Like his XGI was averaging around 0.7 before he left. So there's pretty much, that means like there's a good chance that he could return in most games really. So yeah, I like the Son move. Are you considering him at all? Can you afford him?
Yeah, I can afford him, and he would absolutely be on my. Well, he will make it into my provisional gameweek 29 team because I think he's a must. I feel like he's going to be the absolute captain for everyone in that game week, more than likely. Yeah, I could get him this week, but I don't think it's quite right yet to do it because I think all of my midfielders have got good games, and if Richarlison's out, that's obviously frustrating because I've got him, but I've got bench cover luckily in the form of Douglas Luiz, goal scorer supreme, who could come on. So I just hope that he's fit. But no, I think you're right. I feel like Spurs again because they've had like a week out. Son's been off and he hasn't quite fired yet. He's sitting this is probably like the best time to get him as a differential because I don't think many people will be moving to him this week. So yeah, I do think he's a good shout, to be honest.
Yeah, and then similarly, another good differential, even lower percent owned at the moment, is Madison. We all had him at the start of the season as well, and he's sort of gone a little bit forgotten since he's come back from injury. 7.9 million, 9.7% owned. So yeah, a good differential. 4 weeks since his return from injury, he's played most of the minutes, so pretty much 90s in most of them, and he's got 7, 5, 1, and 2. So 2 returns, 2 blanks. Not too bad, but before his injury, he got 6, 9, 6, 2, 9, 1, 7, 10, 3, and 9. So he was returning and multiple returns like pretty much most weeks. So yeah, I think Madison, great option, another good differential. But however, obviously those from 22 to 25 when he has come back, he doesn't feature in the top 10 for mids for literally any of the stats or the attacking metrics.
That's interesting.
That's obviously a bit of a worry, but then he has had 2 returns still. So, if he just starts to get back up to where he was before he got injured, show a bit more form, like with most of the team, they are so attacking. This is the run for Spurs to do that for sure, and Maddison and Son to be either of those. I'm looking at maybe Maddison because then it would let me get to Salah easier well, but yeah, I think Son at the moment is such a good differential that if he's going to play through the middle, that really does seem really hard to ignore.
Yeah.
But yeah, the defense has been pretty woeful. I think they've been down the bottom of the XGC. Udoggy's only just back in training. He supposedly should feature, but Porro's still not training, I think. So I wouldn't be looking at any defense. We probably will have one of them in our free hits, or at least I will, and you'll probably get one eventually, I would imagine. So yeah, because obviously I think what is their fixture in? It's
they're away at Fulham.
Yeah. So yeah, it's okay. You probably want to at least hedge a bet with one of them there. So
yeah, I don't know if it's a clean sheet fixture, but you and I both had a good time owning Porro for a while, and I think he is a good option again. We'll just wait for him to get fit. So
yeah.
All right, well, let's move on and talk about Burnley against Bournemouth, because I want to get your opinion on Solanke and what to do with him. So this looked like, last week as well, to be honest, looked like a good entry point for Solanke, because he had, after that City game, he's obviously got Burnley away. They've conceded 17 goals in the last 6 game weeks. That's the joint worst in the league. They've only scored 5, which is the fewest. So, if you wanted to make any hits for players this game week, sort of defence or strikers, it would be a good time to do it, because you get the double next and it's already in place. Yep. But we've got this big surprise now. Solanke was dropped. Well, we thought dropped. He wasn't in the squad at all for the other night, and everyone just thought...
Well, he wasn't going to be dropped. We thought maybe rested, but yeah.
Yeah, and now it just turns out he's had a scan on his knee, which was yesterday. So we don't know, do we, at the moment, what the latest is?
Well, I think Iriola said it shouldn't be a bad thing, and hopefully he can help us at the weekend. I think it was something like that. I haven't got the quote to hand, but it was something like that. So, but that just means hopefully, and we've seen it with Pep and stuff like that. Hopefully, doesn't mean a lot. I don't know. Hopefully, he is actually telling the truth and he's not injured for long and he can be available in the double. Because if there's not Solanke, then God, I don't really want anyone from those teams.
No, it's really tricky. I'd obviously before the injury written up about how he'd been doing okay, but not great. He's still 25% owned. I thought it was a lot higher. The reason I say not great, I was surprised at how poor Bournemouth's form had been. I don't know, my short-term memory on it was that they've basically, before Christmas, they were doing really well. That's when Solanke was hauling all those games where you and I didn't have him, when people had got him for Haaland. And they'd just been sort of continuing that form. But, they have not won in the last 8 games. They've kept no clean sheets, and they've conceded 15. So their form is not great. And if you compare Solanke to some of the other strikers, he's actually not sort of blowing them all out of the water. So he's had 4 returns in the last 6 game weeks. 3 blanks, understandably, against City, Forest and Liverpool. Yeah. All of those blanks were in home games, which is interesting because both his double game weeks are at home. And 11 shots in the box in the last 6 games actually puts him 9th of all strikers. The same as Morris, worse than Ogbene. And obviously those guys have got doubles as well and are fit at the moment. So Yeah, it is interesting that like I'd earmarked him as like an absolute buy this week for Alvarez, and now I'm thinking, the fact that he's maybe injured, can I risk going without him in game week 28, and then I don't have to, and then it's an extra transfer I've got in 29. It's
Well,
really
that sounds to me you're reuniting with your lovely Morris.
I'm really strong on Morris again this week. Really strong.
Of course, yeah.
He's just doing well, and I just, I wanted to like Tony.
I mean, Luton aren't, but yeah.
Yeah, Luton aren't, but Morris is doing really well. If I was just a bit more sure on his minutes, I'll see if I can just find his numbers. But in the last, so he's got more returns in Solanke than the last 6 game weeks. I think it's 6 returns in the last 6 game weeks, so 2 more than Solanke in that time. And he's obviously on penalties. Anyway, so I was just talking about Solanke replacements. Let's say he's out for you. Let's say he's out this week. I take it because he's got a potential double on the horizon. You'd probably just bench him, wouldn't you? Yeah, I doubt you'd sell him.
Yeah, I think I'll just leave him in the starting lineup this week.
Yeah,
see if he plays, and certainly not sell before the double because but for you, I guess you probably don't buy this week and just wait.
Yeah, exactly. It's just difficult timing. I think I was trying to think about who the best replacements are, but the list is so short. I kind of think Tony, if the priority is not free hitting in 29, maybe. Morris is probably the next best because he's got a double game week and plays in 29 again if you're not free hitting. Darwin would be in at 3 if he's back. Cunha probably would have been 4th if he wasn't injured, but like I'm guessing most people have got Haaland and Watkins at this point. I don't think there's any other better strikers at the minute, so yeah.
The list is actually pretty short at the moment, especially with Solanke going down.
Absolutely. I think it could be time to move back to a 3-5-2, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, that's pretty much all I want to say on Bournemouth because none of the other players are exciting me because their form is not that good. So yeah, should we move on and talk about a different team or different?
Sure.
Fixture?
So I'll quickly go on about Forest versus Liverpool.
Obviously
Liverpool won their EFL Cup with the kids and then beat the Saints in the FA Cup with the kids as well. So no momentum has been lost despite these sort of attacking injuries they've had. So big question is, will Nunes or Salah be back? As far as I know, that I've seen, like, don't take this as gospel, but I've apparently there's been noises of them both potentially training, but they didn't feature in the final or on the bench or the FA Cups. They didn't feature at all, not in the squad. So yeah, for me, I think it's probably still a void unless we get some actual concrete sort of news that they are fit. Then it's just. Yeah, I think for now it's at a void. Like Liverpool's XG is 14, which is 3rd. So this is the last 6 weeks, 21 to 26. So 3rd overall for XG. So they're still proving that they can do it without their sort of top players. XGC of 9.5, which is actually 10th, which is not amazing, but doesn't really matter when you've got VVD scoring goals, I suppose.
True.
24 big chances, which is joint 2nd with Arsenal. So yeah, again, their attack without Salah and Nunes has still been firing. Nottingham Forest side, like the XG has been 8.95, which is 12th, but then the XGC is 8.1, which is actually 6th of all teams, better than obviously Liverpool themselves. Wow. So I expect it's not going to be a game where Liverpool smash them. Forest at home have been okay. They kept United at bay most of the game in the FA Cup as well. Obviously, that's not saying much. United have not been great lately. But so Forest themselves middling for attack, but pretty okay in defence, it seems like at the moment. So my outcome for this one was like, is it worth looking at any pool players after the blank? For this game, and then obviously they blank in 29 again. So currently I think no, because obviously it's this game, then Man City at home, and then the blank. But after the blank, like their fixtures do get good again, and that's where you'll look to be getting. I think they have Sheffield United at home in 31, so that's when you're probably looking at captain Salah, assuming he's fit. So I think players will be looking to wildcard around then as well to get a double pool probably. Like that. But Forest players, are they worth? Like they play in 29, so their fixtures are Liverpool at home, Brighton away, Luton at home, which is obviously the big one in 29. Luton away, sorry. Crystal Palace at home, Fulham at home, Tottenham away, Wolves at home, and then Everton away. So their fixtures for the foreseeable are quite good.
Yeah.
But so like on paper, they're pretty good. obviously the important one, as I said, is 29 for Luton away. So I think maybe one attacker like a Wanyi, as I said, is possibly someone we can look at. Morgan Gibbs-White, maybe.
Morgan Gibbs-White, yeah.
We think he's on penalties, right? So he may be an option, and he's obviously cheap. And then maybe Alanga. Alanga's been doing quite well recently. And also Hudson-Odoi, I think he had 3 weeks in a row where he scored, but I think he's not scored in the last 2 now. But so there are players in those teams who are sort of showing fleeting bits of form, but I think you could get away with one of their attacker if you need to, like for you, who is not free hitting in 29. So I think the fixtures are there at least to take a punt, I suppose, if you really want to.
Yeah, I think they've got good options for the blanket. And that Luton game, like we've seen, Luton's defence has definitely fallen off a little bit in the last few weeks. Perhaps they played some bigger teams, but I think there could be a convincing argument to have a Forest midfielder with a low ownership. I think that's the main thing about free hit this season for sure, or even in 29 for sure, is because there's so few teams. It's like picking that low owned differential that does well in that week could have that big difference against it. Because there's, for players that aren't, there's no way. For instance, I'm not going to double on Awoni and Morgan Gibbs-White, but some manager freak out there might, and that's where the big difference is going to be, because that ownership's going to be low.
I feel like the strategy of not free hitting or free hitting, I think it's just going to be really swingy. Like the players that people bring in, like Bowen and play it like just for for the other fixtures that are coming up, and when the people who aren't free hitting are just looking at completely opposite options of like Chelsea and City and Arsenal and stuff. I feel like those players that are going to like bad on paper, who are good in 29, are just going to return, and it's just going to go crazy.
Yeah. I think it went just so one way last weekend, because I was bricking it about not owning Hwang because I'd had him before, Sheffield United at home, and it was on that Sunday game, and I was just thinking, I was like a key player, and even this week, like maybe he's fit, but against Newcastle away, Newcastle have been so poor in defence recently, you'd expect Wolves to go there and score a couple as well, and then you're right. I think it is going to be really swingy, and I'm like thinking there's Palmer I can't get to. There's other other players in other teams that I'm just looking at and thinking, oh god. So no, I think it's going to be. I think it's going to keep going like back and forth, which just makes it exciting.
I think with your form recently, you're going to be on the right end of things. You always are at the moment.
I hope so. It's going well, which makes a nice change. Just on Liverpool, I think you're right. I feel like because there's such Klopp has been doing so well. Like they've had the kids out in the cup final and they won, and they had like the kids out in the FA Cup game against Southampton and they still won. I just feel like they're on a roll at the moment. But if you think they've got Alisson out, Trent out, Salah and Darwin, like their key player in
Jota
every
as well.
Jota, key player in every position, and they just keep going. But you're right. I feel like from game week 30, then they've got Brighton at home, Sheffield United at home, United away, Crystal Palace at home. Like that's such a good run, and if they're still in it after that City game, they're just going to be those last 9 or so game weeks to try and obviously win the league. It's going to be crazy.
Yeah, it'll be something to look out for wildcard times if they get a double at all, which I imagine they probably will, because they've blanked twice, haven't they? So they almost for sure will get a double in 34 or 37. So yeah.
No, it's going to be good. All right, well let's wrap up. Last fixture we're just going to talk about tonight before we look at our teams in captaincy. Just want to highlight, or maybe not highlight because it's obvious, but just talk about Sheffield United Arsenal, which is the Monday game at 8, because it's probably about time that people have triple Arsenal, or at least double in attack or defence, because
Yeah, I should have their defence. Why did I go for Maguire?
Yeah, their form for the last few game weeks has just been insane. So their expected goals conceded in the last 4, it was just 1 in the last 4 games. It's unreal numbers. It's crazy. I mean, Brighton the next best with 3, but to have expected goals conceded against as 1 in 4 game weeks is mad. I feel like the defensive returns, despite that, haven't been there, but they're just looking so good. And expected goals in the last 4 as well. I mean, admittedly, they've had pretty good fixtures when you compare to to Liverpool and City, who would normally be up there. But, Arsenal played Liverpool in the last 4, played West Ham, played Burnley, played Newcastle. So, maybe it'll flip, but they're playing well. Their next 2 fixtures are great as well. They got Sheffield United, then Brentford, then obviously the blank. And then they've got that tricky away game against City, but they're going to be going into it so confident, and then Luton at home. So I think their run-in's a little tricky, but the short-term double up in attack or offence is definitely worth. And I think probably not worth mentioning Saka too much tonight, just because he's so well owned. He's like 65%, but he's got so many hauls. And you and I talked about it in like weeks and weeks. We've been saying like, oh, we want him to be a proper FPL asset who's a captaincy one, and he's just been smashing it consistently. 10, 15, 15, 9, 10. Better. I think we've just all been blindsided by Haaland returning and thinking he's going to be the man. And I think Saka's outscored him every week since he's been back. So yeah, it's crazy.
I think there was just that back of your mind sort of thing of when Saka wasn't returning for quite a while. He can just go missing in a few games, can't he? And just like thinking, oh God, if I captain Saka and Haaland goes big, then that's probably why a lot of us didn't go there. So that is for me anyway.
Yeah, no, I'm totally with. I agree. It's just that classic FOMO and thinking that Saka could, probably revert to like historical type, whereas Haaland could revert to his historical type, but it like didn't go that way. Yep. So, are you looking at any? I know we've obviously talked about other teams tonight, but are you looking at any other Arsenal? I mean, 3 of their defenders are in the top 10 for defensive points in the last 6 game weeks. I think 3 or 4 of their attackers, I mean, probably because they're not going to beat everyone 3 or 4-0, but, Odegaard's been steady, like we expected him to be at the start of the season. 4 returns in the last 6, differential at 16%. Havertz has been decent recently, as well. He's low ownership, less than 2%, 5 returns in the last 6 games. I don't know, I just feel like maybe people might be missing a trick not getting Arsenal, especially leading into this week. I think they're going to batter Sheffield United as well.
Yeah, I'm interested in Kivior, Kivior, obviously he's 4.3 million, which is like a really good price for a Maguire replacement. Yeah. However, I'm not sure how long he's going to be nailed for. I don't know how long Zinchenko's out. Timber is back in training as well, so I think we might start to get worried about Gabriel again, possibly. So, yeah, I think it's probably Saliba, or I guess maybe Havertz. I mean, Jesus can't be that far away at this point. I don't know. What about Martinelli? Is his fixtures numbers any good?
His just returns and numbers are just not as good as, surprisingly, as good as Odegaard or Havertz, and even Trossard is performing better than him. So, yeah, I don't know. He just hasn't seemed to be the same player as he was last season. If it were me, I would. This game week seems like a great entry point. I mean, we feel like Sheffield United could get battered every game week. They didn't by Wolves. But, I mean, given that Arsenal scored 4, 5, 4, and then even 3 against Liverpool, I feel like they could score a few in this game. So, yeah, it depends when you're going to wildcard as well. But if you're going to have Arsenal players against Sheffield United, statistically the worst defence in the league pretty much all season, and then Brentford at home in the next one, I think it is, who've been... you mentioned a minute ago, the worst. These are like 2 great fixtures before the blank, and where you free hit and then maybe you're wildcarding then anyway. I just feel like there's good opportunity in Arsenal, and most of their assets outside, let's say outside Saka, Saliba and Gabriel are just really low ownership.
I assume Havertz in a mid in the game, isn't he? I don't think I've ever considered him. Yeah,
7.1 mid.
Yeah, interesting.
I think there's good assets and players there that are could be short-term big wins, and then you obviously, if they're not working, you wildcard them out. But yeah, Sheffield United and Brentford in the next 2, and then maybe you have to play them in that City away game, depending on whether you wildcard in 31 or 32. So yeah, just think they're good. I mean, I've got double defence now, and it's coming one of the 2 weeks. And
you're obviously suspecting it this week, so
considering that there was some stat, I don't know if you've seen it, but they've scored 19 goals from set pieces this season, which I think is like a record. And I feel good having Gabriel and Saliba that either of them could return from any set piece at any time.
Yep, fair.
So maybe that's the way
I feel scared not having a Saliba in there as well. Yeah.
Cool, right.
I might have to take a hit at this point.
Well, should we
Yeah.
talk about our teams now and you talk about captaincy as well? Does that sound like a good idea? Or is there
Sure.
anything you want to talk about before we move on to that?
We'll talk about captaincy.
Cool.
Okay,
All right.
so yeah, there is a good few options. Obviously, I did have Huang down here as an option, but he's obviously out. Yeah, Sun versus Palace is obviously one. Obviously, as mentioned his stats earlier, not great, but he's certainly a differential option. Watkins at Luton, his XG is 4.69 at the moment, which is actually the top of all players in the whole game.
Wow.
And his XGI over those 5 weeks has been 5.4, which is second highest as well. So then there's obviously Haaland versus Man United, XG of 4.62. So he's only just behind Watkins, but his XGI has been 5 over those last 4 weeks. And then Saka finally at Sheffield United, an XG of 4.37, so only just behind as a mid who plays wide quite a lot. So really good XG as well there. And an XGI of 6.4, which is higher than anyone, like a full one ahead of Watkins, who was second. So yeah. So and then obviously Palmer, who I did mention, 1.46 XG and XGI of 2.9. So a little bit further down, but again, a differential against Brentford, who are basically one of the worst defenses in the league right now. So yeah, just on Saka, some of his actual stats. So over the last 6 weeks, from game week 1 to 26, game week 21, sorry, no player has earned more points than Saka with 62 points. He's got the most bonus scored as well of all players of 12. He's top XG for all mids, as I said, significantly above second place, which is Luis Diaz at the moment at 3.6. So 4.3 to 3.6.
Wow.
Like, that's a big difference in XG terms. But that's also Stu, because Luis Diaz has played one more game than him because he had a double. No, sorry, not a double. Wait, did they have a double? I can't even remember. Yeah, they did have it. Liverpool did, yes. Yeah, and Saka did blank as well, I think. I can't remember, but they had one more game. So the second place had one more game, and he's still at one whole XG behind Saka. So yeah, Saka's stats right now, really good. He's also third for XA at 2.05 of all mids. So that's really good as well. So he's got points for, he can get assists, can get goals. Obviously on penalties, as we assume, he's not given to Odegaard recently. So yeah, Saka at Sheffield United, really, really good option this week. So Sheffield United's defense is obviously apparently now mid-table somehow, but they are, however, still joint amount of most goals conceded of 17, I think it was, and then an XGC of 11.7, which is kind of mid-table-ish. So Saka, top form of all players, top scoring mid overall, great fixture. So certainly one to look at. Watkins, back to scoring regularly and hauling, 1, 7, 18, 2, 13, and 9 over his last 6. So really good numbers there. No player has had more goal involvement than Watkins from game 21 to 26, which is 9. He's top for big chances created of all forwards of 3. He's got the highest XG in the game, as I said before, at 4.69, and he's joint top for big chances in the game at 9 over those 6 weeks too. So Luton's XGC is 12.1, which is 18th worst. 14 goals conceded with 1 clean sheet in 6 weeks. So they faced 98 shots, which is actually mid-table, but they've had 23 big chances conceded, 19th. And obviously Watkins has had 9 big chances, joint top. So yeah, that sounds like Watkins is going to get a good few big chances in this game to score. And Watkins thrives on his big chances, space in behind, and that sort of thing. So I think this could be certainly a good game for him. My outcome of this sort of thing has been probably Haaland first. Like, people are going to be looking at this United game. United's defense has been atrocious. I do have some numbers on that actually. XGC of 10.5, which is 11th worst. They've had 116 shots conceded, which is 19th of all defenses for Man United, but they're the second for big chances conceded somehow at 9. So I don't know how they're managing that. Lots of like low XG shots, I suppose, from outside the box. But their XGC versus Fulham was 1.1, versus Luton was 1.13, versus Aston Villa was 2.49, versus West Ham was 1.6, versus Wolves was 2.1. These are bad teams, and they're like over 1 XG against them in most of these games. And the shots faced against as like in these weeks has been pretty awful, like nearly like double digits in basically every game against Man United. So like, we saw in the FA Cup, like Man City destroyed Luton 5-2, like 5 goals from Haaland, 5 from Like I literally had it in my stats here. Like the numbers for Haaland like are just huge. Like he's back to his bets on like all the stats, and I have in my notes that he's like going to haul at some point. Like it's literally only a matter of time. And it obviously happened in the FA Cup, which is obviously really annoying for me and as a KDB owner as well. Like 4 assists is just tragic. But yeah, so hopefully that hasn't sort of mean they're not going to do it in the Premier League.
Right. He's used all his
feel
goals up.
that like the United's defense is there for just to be mauled. Like it really is. So
I honestly
possibly
think
Maguire doesn't play as well, so you know.
Yeah, I honestly think last season Foden and Haaland both got a hat trick, didn't they? And City scored 6. I honestly think it could happen again. Like United's defense is so like I would love to captain Saka this week again, but like I can't bet against the fact that it's a derby and City's fans. It's like the game they actually turn up for, and City will be up for it just anyway. So yeah, if they get an early goal, I honestly think they could score 5 or 6 goals. And you know, I hate saying that, but I just think they could this weekend. And yeah,
so
maybe.
Like I said, it is a great week for a differential captain in Saka or Watkins. Like my research on this is like it really is only between 3 players for captaincy. It's between Haaland, Saka, and Watkins.
Yeah.
Haaland, I think, is the best, then Saka, then Watkins. But like their numbers for all 3 of those are like just well ahead of everyone else at the moment, like literally well ahead. So like Man United derby used to be a leveler, not really anymore. The other 2 teams of Aston Villa and Arsenal play away from home, which is less interesting. So I guess Haaland is the default this week. I think great week to go against it, but a really, really scary one at the same time because the fixture is still so good for City.
No, I'm absolutely with you. I feel exactly the same way. I think it's really risky to go against Haaland this week in particular, especially coming off the back of 5 goals, and he's like got his mojo back, and maybe that'll come through. So, and I don't think it'll be like the Brentford and Everton or Chelsea games where like those teams are sadly a bit more defensively sound than United. I think United are just going to be there and taken really sadly.
Yep.
All right, so tell me about your potential thoughts and moves then. I got your team up here.
So yeah, I've got Hwang and Solanke with issues, Maguire with an issue, and Nakamba just constantly not being available. So I really don't have a bench this week, to be honest, apart from Darty, and I really don't want to have him come in against Villa. So I'll probably do. I'm looking at someone to Son. It could be Hwang or it could be Nakamba. I've got the money to do that. And then I may look at Maguire to like a Saliba, maybe, or a Kivior if I'm interested. Like I'm probably gonna have to take a hit for the 3rd week in a row where I pretty much hadn't taken hits basically all season until the last few weeks. And yeah, the hits haven't really been paying off, but I think I just have to at the moment. I am looking to play the free hit in 29, so I'm just looking at good players. In the meantime, whoever's got good fixtures, whoever's got good stats, I'll be bringing them in.
And I don't think, to be honest, I know you said you don't expect a clean sheet from Darty, but I think that's fair enough. But you know, he could, like his thing is he could get some sort of attacking return, so he's not bad first bench option. Yeah, and then Solanke, obviously, you're just going to play him and hope for the best, really.
Yes, I think so. Yeah, I think he's a hold at the moment until we know that he's definitely out. I think that's fair. Maybe there's a presser tomorrow before the game.
I think there will be.
There should be. So if we know more about Solanke, then yeah.
Moving on to my team. So I might have an issue in. Well, I think my 2 big question marks of the team are Richarlison and Alvarez, because we don't know about Richarlison's injury status. Alvarez seems to have lost his place. Like the fact he's not now started 3 in a row, didn't start the FA Cup, he didn't start the game against Bournemouth, and he didn't start the Champions League game, and he's only come off the bench for like a few minutes in each, makes me think he's, now that De Bruyne's back, he's second choice. But yeah, I don't know about selling him before the United game, because I feel like any of them could get a haul. So I think, to be honest, I had planned before this just to do Alvarez to Solanke and have him in place for the double game week. Now I'm thinking I maybe just roll the transfer, and if Richarlison doesn't play at all, Luis comes in, and if Alvarez doesn't play, or maybe he'll get a few minutes. I don't really think there's an upside in doing any of the others yet, so I think just do that. So it might be quite a boring one this week, but then that will leave me for 2 for
Yeah.
28.
If these Hwang and Solanke things hadn't happened to me, I was looking to roll.
Yeah.
And just having no bench with two possible people that are injured in my 11. There's that's something I'm gonna have to do something. So but your team was good. See what happens for Richarlison, I suppose.
Yeah. No, I feel like I've got it. I don't like the doubles, so even though I've got double City, double Arsenal defence, I'm not quite sure about that. But I feel like I've got a good spread of players and teams at the minute. So yeah, we'll see. But it could always backfire. But no, maybe nothing. Maybe Alvarez to Morris is a maybe. If Solanke's out for if Ryder's honest and says Solanke's out for a month, I'll get Morris this week. But if he's not, then I'm just going to wait and see because I think he's a better pick, obviously, in the double than Morris is.
Yep, fair.
Cool. Right. I think that wraps up. It feels short, but still, we did a 45 minutes or so there. So thanks everyone for joining us and watching. We'll be back midweek next week to see how we all got on in game week 27, and as we count down even closer to blank game week and the navigating the doubles until the end of the season. Exciting. Cool. All right. Yep. Thanks everyone.